So one of my most surprising things that I wasn't quite expecting over the last 2 or 3 weeks was to actually love the iPhone 16 Pro as much as I do. And it's sort of making me second guess my whole dumb phone thing. If you are new to the channel, I've been using a dumb phone for about 9 months or so. So for 3/4 of a year, pretty much, I've been primarily offline from the world of, social media and apps and all that. Now I've had the pleasure of still accessing social media through laptops and tablets and stuff, but I have been primarily using a dumb phone as my main day-to-day device. Now recently I did decide to hop back onto an iPhone for the first time in a while, and I asked you guys which one I should do first, whether that's the 13 mini or the 16 Pro. More votes got the 16 Pro, so I've been on this for a little bit of time now, and man, did it sort of take me by surprise. I will say the main thing I kind of wanted to see primarily is if the novelty of a dumb phone is just that. Is it just novel, or is there actually day-to-day conveniences that I personally actually would miss from using a smartphone like the iPhone? And short answer, yes, there's a lot that I missed about using a device like this, but there's also a good chunk where I didn't quite like about it. Now with that, I will say realistically, I might still be going back to a dumb phone if I'm completely honest, just because it's sort of what I prefer to use, and I'm a bit of an iPad mini diehard, so I love using my iPad mini paired with a dumb phone. That said, I wasn't expecting to question that, and the iPhone 16 Pro has brought up a lot of questions for me. Now with that, over the last couple weeks, I could say I've gone well out of my comfort zone, breaking out of my normal schedule, actually exploring my hometown for the first time ever, literally. Sure, I've gone different places in my city, but I've never gone out and about with the express purpose of simply exploring and learning more about the coffee shops, the bookstores, the everything. And that's what made this experiment a lot more fun than I was expecting, because I had this with me the entire time throughout my last couple weeks or so. And I gotta say, it's sort of almost gonna sound like a love letter when talking about the iPhone 16 Pro. With that, I had the pleasure of filming some of life's normal mundane things, some more special occasions that happened in my hometown. And I really did get to put the camera through its paces, which was probably my favorite thing about this device. Over last week, I played a lot of games on here. One game specific, which I'll talk about. I was able to catch a sunset for the first time in over a year, and I'll sort of touch on that closer to the end of the video. I started doing more short form content primarily because of this device, which was a pleasant surprise. And of course, like I said, exploring my hometown. Now, the reason why I jumped on this, of course, was to, again, explore those modern conveniences that I've been missing and whether or not I would actually miss them. But I've been bouncing from dumb phone to dumb phone to dumb phone for about 9 months. And I figured this would be a great opportunity to have a bit of a dumb phone palette cleanser. Now with that, of course, without any surprises, the first thing I want to start with is probably the camera, because that thing is simply absurd. The best way I can probably talk about the iPhone 16 Pro is that this thing's a camera that just so happens to also be a phone, and not particularly the other way around. I can with confidence say, if, as sad as I would be, if I lost this camera and the cameras that I own, whatever they might be, I could easily pick up the iPhone and continue this channel without pausing. And that's actually incredible. When I was out and about, I had the pleasure of using the 1x lens, the 2x lens. The 5x optical lens was a bit of a surprise. I expected it to be a lot worse than it was, and it simply wasn't, which was surprising. Now, easily to say that lens, these lenses, this camera in general, this whole camera system, as impressive as it is, no, it's definitely not gonna beat something like this. But the fact that this is a flippin' cell phone and it has the lens capacity and the capability it does is actually incredibly impressive. Now, it's not like I didn't know this back when the iPhone originally launched back in September or October, whenever it came out last year. But having been more detached from, I guess, these smartphones over the last while, it's easy to forget just how capable these are. And I'll sort of touch on that in a general sense in a bit as well. Now, I did have a bit of a smartphone, dumb phone sabbatical for 1 week when I reviewed the iPhone 16e. However, as great as that device was, and as monstrous as the battery on that device was, it doesn't quite compare particularly to the 16 Pro. I will link that video up here as well. I still recommend the 16e to pretty much anybody and everybody. And I have my reasons for that if you do check out that video. But this device is in a whole nother league, I can say. For myself, I really had a good time shooting in the ProRes log format, as well as the ProRes HDR format. I personally preferred the log format mainly because of the cameras that I used. I'm filming on a Sony FX30 currently, and I have a Fuji X-H2S, and these both shoot in log formats, which is what I'm primarily accustomed to working with when I'm editing my videos. And Apple Log, actually, I can match and fit into my timelines with perfect ease. Now, one of the things I can say is, as much as I create my videos online, I'm quite actually antisocial. I'm primarily a homebody, so you don't really see me walking around filming with these outdoors. You'll see a lot of my videos I shoot, they're just in my home, they're in my basement and stuff. So one of the things I actually appreciated with this device, as I sort of broke out of my comfort zone, is the fact that it's so discreet and it still gives you the quality that it gives you. That is something that you can't particularly get unless you have like a DJI Osmo 3 or 4, whatever it's called. Otherwise, if I build up the courage to use these, obviously this will destroy my iPhone, but it's still incredibly capable while still being as discreet as it is. Now, as somebody who always talks about bringing back the dad cam, I can say with full confidence the iPhone is pretty much the perfect dad cam. What I mean by that is, in the 90s and the 2000s, you always had a dad with a camcorder filming whatever life's moments, whether it's birthdays, celebrations of any sort, soccer games, whatever it was. There was always a camera that had these memories you build. And those sort of went away naturally, but it's easy to forget how accessible the camera on an iPhone is. And this is easily the dad cam of the century, I can say. For myself, I have loads of videos that I've created without ever having the intent to put them on YouTube. I love creating videos for myself, for my family, sort of like a digital journal. And the iPhone particularly is always going to be the most accessible tool to get that done. So if you haven't yet started a digital journal or a dad cam, I'd recommend it. You don't have to make these videos for anybody else. You don't have to put them on YouTube. Make them for yourself. But I can say it works incredibly well with the iPhone. Separately from the iPhone, I did recently pick up this little camera. This thing was like $40, and this pretty much gives you that 90s or 2000s vibe. So yeah, whatever camera you have, whether it's a $40 tiny little keychain camera or the iPhone in your pocket, make sure you're getting those memories because they're fun to look back on, and I'm sure your family and yourself might actually enjoy it. Now, I do want to say a bit of an intangible thing about the iPhone is that I don't think I would have had as much of motivation to go out and explore my city if it wasn't for picking up the iPhone 16 Pro again. Now, when I was out and about capturing all my lovely footage out by the pier and all over the city here, there's one particular thing that helped me quite a bit actually, and that's going to be today's video sponsor, Torras. I did find myself happy to have this Ofitness case on the 16 Pro, mainly because it really did make a huge difference, not only for my ability to actually capture different angles with this case itself, which I'll talk about, but I don't typically spring for Apple Care, so I was happy to have the added protection of this case as well. I will say one of the more stand-up features, pun intended, on this case is going to be the 360-degree MagSafe ring. This actually really is super useful on this case because it can fold out and rotate 360 degrees, which has allowed me to capture footage I wouldn't typically otherwise been able to. This does have a healthy array of angles, which is pretty sweet. Plus, the ring itself does have a super satisfying click, so I kind of dig that. Using the fold-out ring, at least, I didn't have to carry a tripod with me, and I was able to get footage horizontally, of course, by just propping up the device. Otherwise, I used it vertically for things like FaceTime, which was nice. Otherwise, you can prop this up anywhere you go, and it's good for watching any sort of media wherever you might be. Naturally as well, MagSafe is MagSafe, so that is going to work with any sort of MagSafe accessories, whether that's a battery pack, any sort of MagSafe mounts, or other unique scenarios where there might be something magnetic you can attach it to. I'm using this shadowy gray finish, but there are a good chunk of options available. Though Ofitness does come in a good mix of colors as well for different styles, and it is still pretty thin and light while offering military grade job protection. If you do want to learn more about the Ofitness case, I will have it linked down below in the video description. Thanks again to Torras for sponsoring a portion of today's video. Talking a little bit more about the capture button though, I do have to say, when I originally reviewed the 16 Pro, I actually thought it was pretty gimmicky, and I didn't particularly use it outside of just opening up the camera, and that's pretty much it really. But while I was out and about, I did find it actually useful this time around because I was carrying both a camera as well as my iPhone because I was getting footage while filming this video, as well as using the camera itself for captures. And I will say, if for any reason your hands are ever tied up, the capture button there, while very niche scenario, actually becomes incredibly useful, not just to open the actual camera itself, but to actually use it for a shutter. I didn't bother using, the swipe features and stuff on the capture button, but it was incredibly useful when I was out, specifically for just opening and shutter. Beyond that, of course, I do got to talk about one thing that I don't really like about the 16 Pro. And for me, it's just the fact that it's kind of just too damn big, if I'm honest. I truly love small devices. And again, I'm gonna be reviewing the iPhone 13 mini next in the context of 2025. And I just miss small devices. A lot of those minimal and dumb phones I've been using are all very small, and I simply miss smaller devices. I love my iPad mini, I love my MacBook Air, and the iPhone 16 Pro I personally found a little bit too large. That said, it is built incredibly well. I think this is the natural titanium or the desert. I don't know which colorway this is. If you know, let me know in the comments. But this thing is built incredibly well, as any Apple product really would be. I personally still think Apple makes the I truly think Apple makes the best feeling phones in hand, and there's nothing quite like an Apple device. As for the display on this device, it is definitely one of the best looking displays on any device I've used. This is an OLED panel, which of course is my favorite type of panel technology, and it does look really good. And there were even scenarios when I was out touching grass where I had to literally turn the brightness down. So that's a really good problem to have. I don't remember the last time I had to turn down the brightness on a device, but the screen on there is absolutely excellent. I will say, a lot of people love to complain about, 60 hertz on some devices, 120 hertz is, the end all be all on the 16 Pro. I've realized in my use case on this device, I really don't care about ProMotion. Of course, I'm happy it's there. I'm sure that adds to the price point. But again, as somebody who's primarily used to the 13 mini and my dumb phones otherwise, I'm perfectly fine with 60 hertz. And yeah, it's nice to have on the 16 Pro, but I don't really care for it if I'm honest. But yeah, I've been throwing down some edits on this display, particularly through Instagram's new edit application, which is pretty good for short form content, and the display does an incredible job. So yeah, that's definitely another point that's really impressive for me. That's gonna be the display. Now, if I am talking about the performance of this device, it's not really something I personally can measure with my use case. I'm sure tangibly, I guess, of course, I'm getting things like the Apple log I talked about. This thing is snappy as all hell, but so are all my other devices, if I'm completely honest. Every app I open on my 13 mini is near instant. All my dumb phones, as dumb as they are when they open an app, they're all about the same. I don't particularly game on my 16 Pro, except one game, which is Balatro. That game is still crack. If you guys haven't had the pleasure of playing Balatro, I think it's, I don't know, 15 bucks or if not less. Otherwise, it's on Apple Arcade if you have an Apple One subscription. And I love playing Balatro. If I'm just vibing out, watching TV or whatever the case may be, Balatro is an easy way to pass some time. But with that, it does hit the battery. Now, as somebody who's used to having these minimal devices with a 3 to 4 day battery, it's easy to not like the battery life on this device. But at the same time, it gets me through an entire day. So what am I to really complain about? I can't particularly measure or put a number on the battery life because whatever I use my iPhone for is going to be completely different from you. But the battery gets me through an entire day. And I have a charger everywhere I go in my car. I have MagSafe battery packs pretty much any time in my bag. So yeah, I just have to remember to charge my phone every day, whereas before I could sort of go 3 to 4 days. Not that big a deal for me though. As for the storage, I did end up going for 256, and that was a mistake. I can easily confidently say either double down on using external storage for your iPhone. This does have a Type-C port. I think it's Thunderbolt. I'm not sure, but you can plug a SSD into the bottom here and you can use that for footage. I hate doing that. It's available to me. I'm stoked it's available on here, but for ease of use and accessibility, I've talked about the experience of accessibility of just taking this out and shooting. Apple Log takes up a whole ton of storage. So does ProRes HDR. Both of those formats are ridiculous for storage size. And only 2 to 3 weeks later, I find myself struggling with storage with 256 gigs. And that's after deleting my entire Apple Music library, so it's not downloaded. So if you are going to be using a ton for content creation, I'd recommend 512 at the very minimum. Otherwise, prepare yourself to always have an SSD handy, which isn't the biggest deal, but for myself, I prefer to have it all internal. That's probably the second thing I don't particularly like about it. Now, outside of the performance, battery, the camera, and all that stuff, I'm pretty much back to iPhone after 9 months, and one of the things I got to talk about is that this is still an iPhone, and I absolutely love that. Again, I'd be lying if this didn't make me second guess using a dumb phone, because over the last couple weeks, the sheer versatility of this device makes me wonder if using a dumb phone is worth it at all. The fact that it's still an iPhone is, again, I'm having FaceTime in my pocket where I would typically have to juggle my iPad mini with FaceTime whenever I'm using my dumb phone. So FaceTime on that is huge. I love my family chats. I love my group chats where the boys roast me nonstop. And having that all into one device in my pocket on the iPhone is something that I guess I previously took for granted. It felt freeing having it this time around, so I really enjoyed that. Things like tap to pay, my goodness did I miss that. I don't really have to carry my wallet with me, so that's been a huge pleasure having back tap to pay. And then there's the whole devil's advocate between digital minimalism. Again, I've used dumb phones for the sake of being less connected to things like social media and all that, so there always comes the question of willpower. Can't you just use an iPhone and have more willpower? The answer is yes. I talked about that in my last video or 2 videos ago, where yeah, have more willpower, delete all the apps. For myself, in my setup at least, on my homepage, I don't have anything except my 3 main things that I love doing on my iPhone particularly, and that's going to be reading. Somebody who's a new reader, I kind of want to have it with me everywhere I go at this point, if I'm completely honest, and reading on here has been a pleasure. The little widget here on my home screen that gives me a reading goal has been awesome. Of course, as addicted I am to music, I just have a widget here for my music application. And then I've talked about this a lot. I love to journal. I journal a lot by pen and paper. And primarily what made me pick up pen and paper more so was the fact that the journal app previously didn't have any continuity to something like iPads or Mac OS, but it does now with iPad OS 26 and Mac OS 26 and iOS 26. There's continuity on the journal app. So I actually started picking that up again, which has been a huge pleasure. If you haven't journaled, you don't have to do anything crazy. Just write down a couple jot notes per day, and that's considered journaling. And I really, really enjoy that. But yeah, this thing is still an iPhone, and it's easy to take that for granted when you think about the grand scheme of things. And I've really enjoyed it. Now, as corny as it sounds, jumping back into the iPhone 16 Pro sort of sparked me to want to explore my hometown a little bit more. And I wanted to sort of talk about that a little bit because I count that as a small win. In my books, it's kind of a huge win. And it made me sort of, again, it sounds kind of weird. I'm taking all these normal things that I typically wouldn't do and just celebrating the small wins. I never particularly celebrated hitting 75K on YouTube. So first off, I want to thank you all for watching. 75K is a huge milestone for me, and I felt like it was a little bit corny to celebrate that. But screw it, honestly, I'm really happy to hit 75K on YouTube. So thank you all for watching. And I really appreciate your time watching these videos. Another thing for myself, again, I really wanted to go out and catch a sunset with this device. And I realized that's the first sunset that I watched in over a decade. And that's another small win that I celebrated over the last week and a half. As weird as that sounds, it's like, when was the last time you actually went out with the express purpose to catch a sunset? And it was a really good time, and I really enjoyed that. And it's been a long time since I just went somewhere to exist and just see nature in that way. So I'm happy I was able to get that on the iPhone 16 Pro. And for me, it just hit a little bit different, which was awesome. The other thing with this is that it was so much easier to start up short form content. I don't particularly do short form. I know I should be, and automatically having this 16 Pro, it was just so accessible to just jump right into short form content. And I think I posted 3 or 4 videos really quickly, easily, just because of the 16 Pro. So that's another small win for myself, which sort of makes me want to keep using an iPhone specifically for short form. And the last small win is almost major for myself, and I sort of want to talk about it briefly. I'm pretty much done talking about the iPhone, so if you want to click away, feel free to click away, but thank you for hanging out. The last thing for myself about celebrating these small wins is I was just chilling on my couch, again, early last week. I had the iPhone, I was just vibing out. My daughter's watching Spider-Man or some shit. And I looked outside my window, my living room window, and I saw the beautiful sun coming through the trees. Again, this is going to sound somewhat pretentious or corny or whatever, but it reminded me of this movie I watched called Perfect Days. And I saw this, I don't know, 6 months ago or so. And that movie, unlike any movie I've ever seen, there's no antagonist, there's no protagonist. It's just a dude working an unglamorous job in Japan, but he's loving all of the simple things in life, the mundane things in life. One of the things that he loves is seeing the sun through the trees. And that moment where I was just chilling on the couch and I captured that on my iPhone, I wouldn't have otherwise captured that if this wasn't chilling in my pocket. And it reminded me of that movie. And then I was just like, at that point in time, I was just like, fuck it, let me get up and let me go, not just lay here. Let me go check out the sunset for the first time. Let me go explore the city. Let me go do all these things. And as weird as it sounds, that was a bit of a eye-opener for myself. Weird as that sounds. Trust me, I know that sounds weird. But over the last week, I've had the pleasure of exploring local coffee shops. I went to a garden center where I could never afford the plants. Plants are expensive, dude. I went to this little bookstore I found in this little corner of the city. On a flippin' weeknight, I took my kids out past their bedtime and we went to this music festival, which I got some footage on my iPhone as well. And the kids had a blast. And guess what? They slept perfectly fine. And as weird as it sounds, all from me capturing a glimpse of sunlight on my iPhone, did I decide to do all these off-brand, off-schedule things. And we've had the best the last 2 weeks, as weird as that sounds. Now, you don't need an iPhone to make that your catalyst. Hopefully maybe this video will be the catalyst, but I'm telling you guys, just get the hell out of your normal schedule, go do something, go explore your hometown, take your iPhone 16 Pro and go make a shitty video that you've never made before. Honestly, it really is a good time. And yeah, that's all I have to say about my iPhone 16 Pro. Insane device. I'm gonna be hopping on the 13 mini next. I'm gonna keep celebrating my small wins, and thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you. Until next time.